That's one thing I never did. I felt like I got gypped out of is I never, ever delivered pizzas. I was always working on the inside. So, like, taking the phone call orders, talking to the people at the cashier register, going to make the pizzas. I used to work oven. That was my favorite place to work. Yeah. That's usually, like, when we were crazy, crazy busy. We were at a high output store. That's all I ever knew was just, like, insane. I didn't know some pizza places are just kind of sitting around.
Waiting for the
kicking
phone
the dust and it was not like that for us. It was bananas the whole time, and I love that high output, high stress work. It'd make a night go by like in a jiffy. So that position took 2 people normally, but I got it down to where I could just do it myself, like run the whole thing myself. So they made me a special name tag.
Did it say that you were kind of a big deal?
No, they called me Oven God.
Nice.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the podcast. I am Patrick. You all know my host with the most, Mr. Chili.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And, of course, over there working the laptop, we got the big, the bad, the wonderful Jer Bear.
What's going on, everyone?
That was a fun way to introduce. You should do that more often.
You should.
Yeah, that was a blast.
A little bass in your voice.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, we'll keep working on it. It's only been 15 shows.
We've only just begun.
We've only just begun.
That's right.
Are we still in season 1?
We're still in season 1. Although now it's like we're in season 1 and we're still in the first segment of season 1, right? Like we got to have a couple week break and then we can come back with part 2 of season 1. So really, it's quarters, right? It's academic quarters.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So
anybody else, when you hear that only just begun song, do you see the montage from Happy Gilmore? No.
Oh,
okay.
no. I've seen quite a lot of his movies. I don't know that I've ever seen.
You've not seen Happy Gilmore?
I don't know if I have. Which one's it about? Maybe
golf. The hockey player.
Is that the hockey
player?
The hockey player. Yeah. No, I can see the scene where he takes the hockey stick and uses it, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
It's a fun movie. You got to watch that movie.
Have you seen Big Daddy?
I have seen Big Daddy.
That was a great movie.
Great movie. You meant the movie. I'm sorry. I went somewhere else. I was in L.A. this weekend, and I saw who we affectionately refer to as Big Daddy.
Yeah?
Well, maybe more, not affectionately, more sarcastically mimicking. But that's a story for another day.
Well,
different podcast.
You were in L.A. How was your week? And what did you do in L.A.?
Week was good. I went to L.A. for a wedding.
Nice.
My niece, my sister's daughter, got married over the weekend in Los Angeles.
Awesome.
Lovely service. Saw lots of family I haven't seen in a long time. Aunts. Yeah, just no uncles, just aunts.
Yeah.
Other folks as well. I got to see my daughter and my son.
That's exciting.
As well. Hadn't seen them in a while. My little brother was out from Illinois with his family.
Cool.
Mom and dad, of course, got to hang with mom and dad. So it was a good weekend. Overall, it was a good weekend.
Very nice. Los Angeles. That's quite a haul from here.
It is quite a haul from here. It's a couple of flights. They don't live near an airport necessarily, so it was a drive through Friday afternoon traffic to get to their house, which and they actually live out in Riverside County, Corona area.
Okay.
Which for those of you that know, it's right off. It's off the 15 and 91 freeway there in California. Yeah. So you're driving out through that area. It's always traffic. LA is just traffic town. Period. So
yeah,
I don't miss it. I do not miss that. So
yeah, that's one thing here in Columbus I've actually grown to appreciate. Baton Rouge is a very small city, but those of us that have driven over the road, if you've hit Baton Rouge at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it takes you till 7 to get out.
It does.
It is a pinch point for I-10. I-10 goes down to, I-10 is a major thoroughfare across the country. It's like 10, 40, 80, and maybe 90, but not really 90 because it's not really anymore. So it's really like 10, 40, and 80 are your major thoroughfares cross country. I-10 goes down to one lane. One lane in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Like, what a great genius idea this is. Idea. It just becomes a blessed nightmare. And it's right off the, not Punnicary, the Atchafalaya River Basin.
Right.
Which for a little while was the longest bridge in America. It's 2 little lanes. There's no shoulders. So when a breakdown happens, or a
It's
wreck,
bad.
it just destroys
bad.
everything. So it's like if you're crossing through that section of Louisiana, you just say a little prayer beforehand and hope for the best. I know, being from there, I can't tell you how many times I was like, I looked at the traffic, I saw like it was green, but you could tell it was turning slightly yellow, and I'm like, nope. Going around. Like I know the route around it, and it's 15 minutes longer, but when you're talking about traffic, it can cut hours off your drive.
I'm sure.
It's and even that route is a 2-lane, no shoulder state highway. So it with little towns, and of course, man, great speed traps.
Oh, yeah,
awesome speed traps.
Of course.
It
Speed limit goes from 55 to 35 with no warning.
65 to 30.
Wow.
Like immediately. Like no turning 30. Like here it is. Hope you're ready. There's a place, Crotts Springs. Yeah, Crotts Springs. Every single time, it's a little bridge, and you go right over the river, and then immediately on the right hand side at the base of the river is always 2 suburban cops with their speed guns. As soon as you go across the bridge, immediately there's the sign, and it's one of those where the bridge is over you.
Right.
It's got the big metal superstructure above you. They on that metal structure. The very last thing is the speed limit sign. No warning. No like slow down.
Right.
No reduce speed ahead. None of that. So it's because of that town and about like a dozen more in Louisiana, the state legislature actually had to put out a rule saying that is no longer legal in Louisiana. So if you go to it now, they do have the reduced speed sign ahead. And if they don't, they actually have to have a legit sign that says speed trap.
Really?
Like
literally speed trap.
Speed trap literally is on the thing, on the sign. So I mean, Louisiana is not exactly the best state in the world, but at least they're looking out a little bit for their drivers.
But I'm sure they're still getting plenty of people that don't pay attention to those signs.
Oh, yeah.
And are speeding right along anyway.
Absolutely. So. And it's 100 people live there in 12 houses.
Yeah.
And they have two sheriffs, or not two sheriffs. They have one sheriff and one deputy. One has one suburban, the other has the other suburban. And that is their town's municipal source of income.
If you need them for something, you know where to find them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the kind of place too where they never have murders from there. They never have murderers.
Really?
Yeah. So if someone dies and we suspect someone got killed, another person just disappears.
Yeah. The Gators get them.
That's right. That's right. And that is truly Gatorland.
I believe it.
There's a piece of me that's like, all that stuff sounds terrible, and I really miss it. Like, I remember back when I used to work in New Orleans, driving back and forth from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. If you take the interstate route, there's a bald eagle nest right outside of New Orleans.
Okay.
And so it was always cool to see the bald eagles out flying around. Or if they weren't flying around, you could see them in their nest.
Right.
So that was a really cool thing to see. If you took the other route, you go right through a swamp, and I mean, you're like a foot off the swamp. It's like right there. And you see the gators just up on that highway berm.
Just sunbathing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like so cool just to have that experience. When you were down in Florida, did you have anything like that, Jerry?
Absolutely. Where I grew up, small town. Well, Palatka it's kind of a small, medium town, but we lived out in Satsuma. My mom had property out there, and I was young. But our nearest neighbor was 3.1 miles away from us.
Oh, wow.
It was in the middle of swampland.
Yeah.
Like, we had panthers mating on our front doorstep all the time. Yeah, there was...
And you decided to go with FedEx and not Panther.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They were coming to your door recruiting you, and you were like, yeah, drive for FedEx instead.
Have you ever heard a panther?
No.
Oh, my God.
No.
So the screaming and the high pitching and the noise and everything coming from it. And we had one right on our front doorstep, and my mom called her mom at the time, my grandma, and she was like, listen, and she just held the phone up, and she was like, don't you dare leave that house. She immediately called the law. They came out there, they shone lights, scared them off and all that stuff.
Wow.
And that's the night that we found out that it was actually illegal to kill them because they're protected in the state of Florida.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me so angry. The whole protection thing. I mean, I get it. We got to protect invasive species. Not invasive. We got endangered species. I understand that. However, we have a woodpecker that lives near us. And when he's pecking on trees, go for it. Have your fun.
Right.
But we've repaired like 3 holes in the side of the house from this dang bird, and it is a protected species. I don't know if it's everywhere, but in Ohio, it's protected, and you can't kill it. You can't do nothing.
Wow.
And I'm like, he's literally, or she is literally trying to take my house down one chip at a time.
Yeah.
So we bought some owls and put out there. That seems to help a lot. We've, I guess, because we repair everything so quickly, it's not really appealing to the bird. So yeah, it's kind of moved on.
Well, it's not real wood anymore. It's just
putty. the whole wall is putty. Anyway, so yeah, cool. Nice.
It was a good weekend.
It sounds like a good weekend.
It's a good weekend.
I had an interesting weekend.
Did you?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So I got a lead on a couple used trucks out in Phoenix. Very low miles. This one has 50,000 miles on it.
Did you say 50?
50.
50. Okay.
50.
50,000.
50,000.
50K.
50. And the price was pretty good. And so I was like, all right, it's got my attention. It's built mostly how we build our trucks.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, so I'm thinking in my head, okay, to upfit this, to fix that, it's going to be this many thousands of dollars, and the sell price of that. Okay, it makes sense. So got my financing in order and everything as you do, and reached out and talked to the dealership, and we put it together, and boom, we got it done.
Nice.
So one of the things it had to have done before I picked it up was an extended warranty put on it. This is one that's through Detroit. It's a really good warranty. And we've got several trucks with it. And so I'm like, all right, I want to make sure we get it done. But it involves an inspection. So they actually have to go through the engine and check everything out and make sure everything's fine.
Okay.
Before they'll put that warranty on it. And they did the inspection. They found a couple issues with it. So I'm like, all right. But I had my ticket planned, or I had my ticket already bought. It was not a refundable one, but one that I could cancel and get the credit back and then rebook a flight on a different day. So I was in communication with the dealership the whole time. The day of my flight, everything looked good, but it wasn't done. So I'm like, all right, just let me know when it's, done and we're good. So, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Noon comes, 1, 2, 3, and I've got to be at the airport at 5. And so I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I talked to the shop. They're still working on it. But let me get an update, okay? So 4 o'clock. I'm not sure. Let me get an update. I've been traveling all day, so I haven't really gotten the best information. I'll be good to go. The dealer that the person I'm working with, because the person I was working with is the district manager.
Okay.
So he wasn't at the actual location. He said, let me get a hold of this other person. Call you back in 15 minutes. Cool. So that's a 4. At 4:30, my ride shows up, take me to the airport. No word. 5 o'clock, I'm at the airport. No word. So I'm literally out in front of the ticket booths, like calling and texting like a mad person. And I'm being honest. I'm like, I know we're rushing this a little bit, but if you're not going to be able to make it, let me know.
Right.
I won't go out there. Like, I think that's fair, right?
I think that's very fair.
I know we're trying to rush and get it done. But if it's just not going to happen, then it's just not going to happen.
Sure.
In the airport lobby, 5:15, he finally calls me. Hey, just got word. They're done with the inspection. All they have to do is go test drive the vehicle, and you'll be good to go. He said, but they have high hopes. Like, everything's going to be fine.
Right.
It's nothing crazy. Again, it's got 50,000 miles on it. It's a brand new truck. Hadn't even had its first oil change. Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool. So I got on the flight, flew out there, had a wonderful flight. Flying out to Phoenix, it was like glass the whole time.
Nice.
I mean,
Nice.
I don't mind turbulence. It doesn't bother me at all. But
if you're comfortable and smooth, why not?
Exactly. And flying across the country like that, I don't think most people know when you get across the Rockies, you always hit a little turbulent air.
Always get something, yeah.
And it's fine. It's usually not much, but it's something.
Sure.
And this time, I mean, again, glass the whole time. It was unbelievable. The pilot landed, you couldn't feel nothing. It was like perfect.
Wow.
He just did an awesome job. And so it was like, cool. Even had dinner on flight. That was a nice, I was not expecting that. I'm like, I'm never going to turn down dinner on flight. So had a great time. Got to the hotel, got there, got my Uber, was there in like 5 minutes after I requested it, which at an airport is iffy.
It is.
Sometimes you get to an airport and, you can be there for hours with 1,000 people trying to find an Uber.
Waiting, yeah.
Yeah. And then you all cram into one car like clowns. But that was not the case. It was really nice. The guy was super, super friendly. Got to the hotel. The hotels out there are so expensive. I had no idea. The hotels in Phoenix.
Really?
On Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, Cinco de Mayo. There you go.
Were
There
outrageously expensive. So, but I found one like 2 miles away from the dealership, less than $200. It was a brand new Hilton Garden Inn, or not Hilton Garden Inn, a Courtyard by Marriott.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So nice. Had a great night of sleep. Woke up the next morning. Got to the dealership right when they told me to be there for. Everything's closed except for service. But the guy told me on the door it says like Saturday by appointment only.
Right.
So I knew I had an appointment. So whatever. He came out. They got a beautiful white Freightliner cab over from 1953 in the lobby.
Wow.
I mean, it's just a really nice dealership.
Yeah.
So I go down there, sign all the paperwork. Everything's good. I asked him about, the typical license plate or temp tag and DOT inspection. He said, the DOT inspection of the truck, yada, yada, yada. I go to get my not for hire signs and realize I left him back here. I brought my tape, but I forgot my not for hire sign. So I'm like, well, this is not very convenient. So he's like, yeah, I'll go print you some off. So I go over there. He prints them off, right? Getting ready to do my inspection, my pre-trip on the truck.
Right.
And when you get a brand new truck or a brand new used truck, you tend to do a little thorough pre-trip just to make sure everything's good. And so I had to add some coolant here and do a little thing here, there. Nothing big. It was in really good shape. And so I'm looking all around the inside, and I'm like, I don't see the DOT inspection anywhere. So I go outside. I look at the sticker on the side of the truck. It expired in 2021.
So 2 years
So
ago.
I'm like, hey, I don't see anything in here. He's like, okay, cool. Let's walk back to service, and we'll get it. Get back to service. One service writer working 4 mechanics. We wait for probably 20 minutes, and finally a guy comes back there, and he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Pulls up the work order and everything, and then it starts. We don't have a request for a DOT. We never did one.
Nice.
So I'm like, well, that's great because you can't drive across the country without a DOT inspection.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, you can still take the truck. And I'm like,
no, I can't.
No, I can't.
No.
No. I'm like, let's get one done. So he said, he looked in, he talked to the foreman. This was about 10:30. And they said, when do you have to leave here? I said, I really need to leave by noon. Like, that's kind of my cutoff to be able to make the trip like I need to. And so they're like, all right, well, we think we can have you out close to noon. I said, all right, I'll take it. So I went and picked the truck up, drove it around, dropped it off for him, gave him the keys, walked back to the driver lounge. Pretty nice driver lounge. They had the, have you seen the wall of food? And it has a little cash register.
Yes.
And there's like cameras everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just pick up your items
And
pay for it, you
Yeah,
move
yeah.
on. Yeah. So I got a bottle of water there because I didn't have any, and I didn't think about Phoenix as dry. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I started, even being there for such a short period of time, I started feeling my skin like drying up, my lips. I had chapstick on them all day. I just was shocked at how dry it was. And it's like, duh, Phoenix is dry. I know better. But just
You
wasn't
just
thinking
didn't
about
think about it, sure.
Drank the bottle of water, and I refilled it up several times. They did have a nice bottle filling station, so I just
like
went back
those
and
things,
refilled it
yeah.
several times. The temperature outside was awesome, so I decided I'm going to leave the driver lounge. I'm just going to go hang out outside. They had a nice paved area with park benches and even had a playground for kids.
Wow. Did they have a fishing pond, though?
No, but they had a RV section
Okay.
that probably fit 20 RVs,
Really?
and they all had power, they all had sewer, they all had water,
Wow.
and a big sign there saying, no trucks allowed. And I was like, dang it, because that would be really nice if one of our trucks broke down to be able to plug into all that.
Right there.
But because of that, they had a big patio. They had grill pits. They had all the stuff. It was
So they had an RV park there, basically.
had a small RV park there, and it was really nice. It looked fairly new. I mean, I'd bet it's 5 years old or newer. So I'm hanging out there. It's about noon. I'm like, oh, this is taking a while. Let me go find out what's going on. Again, the guy's nowhere to be found. But the cashier, I talked to her, and she's like, hey, let me look it up real quick for you. She said, oh, yeah, I see. They did the DOT, and it failed. And I'm like, all right, well, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
She said it's an air leak, but I don't see that we diagnosed it. And I'm like, oh, that's great.
Well, they didn't have a work order for that.
Well,
just
by
the
this
DOT
time
inspection.
this time they've already pulled the truck out. So a guy comes over, got an air leak, not sure where it's at. So I reach. By that time, the salesperson I was working with is already gone because he's not sitting there for 2 hours on a
Sure.
Saturday. And the district manager obviously never was there. So I'm working with both of them to try to get this figured out, and they finally convinced the foreman, go ahead and bump this to the list, and let's try to knock this out quickly. So that brings me to about 1:45 or so. They say, all right, we figured out the problem, and it needs airbags on the sleeper. Well, because that's where the air is leaking out of.
Okay.
Now, our trucks use sleeper airbags that are not Freightliner.
Right.
They are actually a pack car part. So you can get them at Kenworth's and you can get them at Peterbilt's, but you cannot get them at a Freightliner. So I'm like, okay. I told them, I said, hey, pinch the line so I don't have a cab suspension. It'll make the ride a little bumpier, but it's still legal, it's still safe, and give me a clean DOT. We can't do that. I'm like, okay, you're not going to have the parts. You're not going to be able to fix this. So I don't know what else we can do at this point. And I have to be back in Columbus by Tuesday.
Right.
So I'm like, I won't be able to make it if you can't get the truck out today. And they're like, give us a few minutes. So they go and they work on it. They reach back out and they say, hey, we found the parts. We have them in stock. We're going to get it fixed. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm thinking in my head, you looked the VIN number up. You found the airbags off the VIN number. You're going to go get them. You're going to put them on the truck, and you're going to realize they don't fit.
Not going to work.
And guess what happened?
They did exactly what you said.
At 3 o'clock, I'm like, let me see what's going on. I walk over there. Well, we thought we had the parts, but we pulled them up by the VIN. And I'm like, so basically the exact thing I told you was going to happen happened. I'm like, cool. So then they had one airbag in. By some miracle, I guess they worked on a truck like this before and ordered in, and they just didn't use it. So they had one airbag that fit, but they needed another one. So there was a Peterbilt right next door. It was like their dealership, the city's water tank, and then a Peterbilt. So I'm like, give me the spring. They gave me the old air spring, which air spring. I literally walked. They didn't give me a car. They didn't bring me over there. I walked to Peterbilt, gave them the part. He's like, yep, I got it in stock. He goes back and grabs it. He said, I have 2 in stock. I'm like, cool, I'll take both. He goes back there. He's gone for a while, comes back, and he only has 1. He sets on his counter, and then he punches in the computer and does something, and then he walks back there again. He's gone for like a solid 20 minutes. And I'm like, what's that? That's a big, that Peterbilt is huge. The parts warehouse is massive. It is ginormous. And it's not service building. The service building is actually in a separate building across the street. It's just parts. Wow. It is huge. Like it's IKEA sized, huge. And so it didn't surprise me he was gone so long. But I think at that point I realized, okay, he's looking for a second one. Can't find a second one. Find it. So he comes back and breaks the news to me. At this point, I've been gone so long, the dealership did actually show up and asked me what was going on and all the stuff. And I said, it looks like it's only going to be 1. So sure enough, it was only going to be 1. Got my paperwork. I paid for the part myself.
Okay.
And we went back over on the golf cart over to the Freightliner dealership, and they installed that second airbag. In the process, they noticed there's 3 airbags in the middle, and one of those was leaking air.
Wow.
So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So they close at 6. It's like 5:40, and I walk over and I ask what's going on. What are we looking like? And they're like, man, I don't. It doesn't look good. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to do it. They had another truck there. So the truck I bought is one of 2 sister trucks, and the other truck had just sold like a couple days prior. It didn't. It wasn't sold when I was first talking about these trucks, but it had sold since. And so he said, we're going to go get they went and got the old airbags off of that truck, found one that was good, and we're trying to install it on mine in time. And that's just so much labor. That is hours of work. It's not a real quick, easy thing to install and uninstall these, especially with toolboxes and the cramped space and everything. So he's like, it doesn't look good. So I just stood there. I'm like, well, you close in 20 minutes. Let's see if it happens.
See what happens, yeah.
And at 6 o'clock, the cashier leaves. At 6:05, he locks up all the doors, but he doesn't ask me to leave, and he hasn't whatever. So I'm like, we'll see what happens. And at 6:15, he left, went back to the back, and came back, and he said, hey, can I get you to sign that electric signature pad over there? And I was like,
are we good?
Are we good? Is the truck fixed?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? He said, yeah. I said, do I have a clean DOT inspection? He said, yeah. It's they left it in the truck. And I'm like, Okay.
Yeah,
So I walked over there,
let's get
signed everything, and he jumped on the golf cart, went back out to the truck, fired right up. Everything was good. Airbags were solid. There was no leaking of air. And so I jumped in the truck and started my way back to Columbus. 6 hours late.
Right.
But
you're
hey,
on your way.
I'm on my way.
Yeah.
I was so happy. A very uneventful trip back home. Nothing crazy. No bad traffic.
That's great.
I mean, I really think I had a hand watching over me.
Yeah.
I made great time. Typically, when I buy these trucks and I have to go get them from a far distance, I will like stay in hotels, especially a used truck. It hadn't been cleaned by us.
Right.
I don't know how clean that. I don't know what condition the mattress is in. Like, I'm just a little weirded out by that. If it's a brand new truck and I have to get it from far away, they got plastic wrap on the beds and all the stuff. It's not comfortable.
Throw a
It's not
sleeping bag down and a pillow, and you're good to go.
I can't do that. So I'll typically stay in hotels on the way back. But I knew because I was so late with my whole endeavor that I wasn't going to be able to get to a town
Right.
in a reasonable time. So I swung into, and the mattress looked great. Everything on the truck was really nice. So I swung into a Walmart. I bought bed sheets, a pillow, stayed in the truck the whole trip.
Hey.
Everything worked out from that point on. Everything worked out perfect. But I'm telling you, that whole day, Saturday, my stress level was on like a 14 out of 8. I was just like losing my. I even talked with Buttermilk about. I don't think it's going to happen. I think I'm going to end up flying back home, and someone's going to have to come grab this truck.
Yeah, I remember seeing that text
In a few days.
And the text that you sent said that it didn't pass the DOT.
Yeah,
They had to get parts from Bolt, and it might be two or 3 weeks or whatever before we can pick the truck up. And I looked at her and I go, "What parts do we get from Bolt that we need for a DOT inspection?" And guess what she said?
I don't know.
Sleeper airbags, maybe.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't know about that.
Well,
but,
I didn't think, based on what they were saying through some part of conversation somewhere, I got the idea that it might be the leveling valve,
Oh, okay.
not the airbags. Because I
Gotcha.
knew the airbags you can get at Packard.
Right.
At Kenworth
Sure.
dealership, Peterbilt, not a big deal.
Well, I know you know that.
But I didn't know the suspension part of it, though. That's not readily available.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's the leveling valve is what I was afraid the issue was.
Okay.
Turned out that wasn't the issue. They were just
Good.
dry rotted airbags. It was a crazy, crazy trip, and
Well, it sounds like
I
this
was-
truck's been sitting for a while.
it has.
I mean, it's 50,000 miles.
It's a 2020.
The last DOT inspection was in 2021, so
No.
2 years later.
No, the DOT inspection was in 2020. It expired in
Oh,
21.
that's what I mean. It expired in 21. So, 2 years later, the truck's still sitting there, 50,000 miles on it.
Yep. Yeah,
Wow.
dry rot was definitely a thought.
Yeah, and especially out in that desert, dry air.
Yes, and they did go through the engine because of that warranty
right.
inspection. So they replaced any hoses or belts that were dry rotted. And on the reefer unit, we'll have our Thermo King do the
Sure.
same thing.
Yeah.
Although I did run it and it ran great, pulled down to negative 20 and up to positive 32
Okay.
with no issues.
Celsius?
Yes, the air conditioner on the dash. I mean, it was a 97 degrees was the highest I saw on my dash.
Wow.
And I actually had to turn my AC down. It was so cold in the cab. So I mean, the truck works great.
Awesome.
It's just those few little dry rot parts, that they just didn't catch in time. And the dealership apologized profusely. I mean, like, they did everything right. I'm so glad the shop worked with me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not common. If you don't know, a lot of these dealerships, like the sales side and the service side,
Completely separate.
could almost be two different companies.
Yeah, they really are.
And they don't really work with each other. Like, when a lot of people don't know, so like when Fighter Freightliner, who we work with a lot here in Columbus, when they have a brand new truck and it has to go get a DOT inspection, the new sales part, they have to pay the same price we do to get a DOT inspection
at their own facility.
Sure. In their own place.
Yeah.
If they go to the body shop to get something painted or something fixed, they're paying the same price
Sure.
we are.
And that happens. That happens in a lot of businesses where there are two different lines of business, and it may not be the sales team isn't cutting a check to the service department, but behind the scenes in the budget on the balance sheet, that comes out of their budget.
Yeah.
And it goes over to the service department's budget because they got to make sure everything is getting paid properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, not unusual.
No, and it makes sense, but it's the thing is, I think the salespeople hate is that it cuts in their profit.
It does. Yeah. It does.
And I know a lot of them are like, well, if you just would do this at a reduced rate, then I can keep more profit. but it doesn't.
But
that
then-
doesn't benefit the dealership.
Well, no.
It only benefits the salesperson.
And the problem there is it doesn't benefit the service department. Their budget is losing money to work that their guys are doing, or
Absolutely.
their service technicians are doing, and they're not getting compensated for that service. So they're losing money on their side. So
yeah, absolutely.
got to keep everything on the up and up.
Yeah. So it was a very fun drive back. It was, I was talking to y'all earlier before the podcast started. I drove from Phoenix up to Amarillo and all the way across Phoenix to Flagstaff,
Mm-hmm.
Flagstaff to Amarillo, or to Oklahoma City, and then up 44
yeah.
to 70, and then across that way. And I even got through Indianapolis in less than 30 minutes.
Have they opened up I-70 through Indianapolis
Yes.
yet? Oh, nice.
Oh,
Yes.
Nice.
I was about to ask that.
Yeah. Less than 30 minutes.
Wow.
On Friday, I got into Indianapolis. No, I'm sorry. On Monday, I got into Indianapolis at 5:30. And I got through in less than 30 minutes.
Wow.
That never
Never.
happens.
Never.
Never
Was yesterday
happens.
a national holiday or something?
I don't know
Were
what it
people
was.
not working?
It was
come on.
insane. I mean,
Wow.
it's slowed right in downtown. It makes kind of like two big curves.
Yeah.
It slowed down there, but that was it. I was
Wow.
I was shocked.
That's awesome.
I was befuddled.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I was very happy about that.
Good.
But it it was St. Louis had no traffic in St. Louis at all. Let me ask you a question. You've both driven a lot. You're both very smart about trucking and highways, and both of you, if I say a segment of road, you'll instantly know what it is and be able to relate. 44
Yes.
from Six Flags over St. Louis
Okay.
to the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
Why is that segment of interstate going through a major city so curvy?
It's kind of like what you said earlier about I-10 through Baton Rouge cutting down to one lane. Why?
It's just a terrible.
And you've also got how many interstates that come through right there in that area?
In St.
too?
Louis, St. Louis
In
is
St.
a lot.
Louis.
It's
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got to really pay attention to what's going on to
You
make
do.
sure you're on the right interstate.
Oh yeah.
Even though you might take 55 for half a mile to get to 70, it's just so confusing right through there.
It is.
And then if you're admiring the arch, forget it. You're gonna get lost.
Yes. I will say the nice thing about it is, like, if you're going westbound and you cross the river by the arch, you do have a solid 10 seconds
Oh yeah.
to admire it,
Yes,
which doesn't
you
sound
do.
like much, but 10
That's a
seconds
lot
is
of
plenty of
time,
time for
yeah.
you to appreciate
It
it
really
and move
is.
on. When you're going the other way, going west or going east, you have
yeah.
no time.
No,
You have
really
none.
don't.
I mean, it's like
You
you're
go
making
towards it and you turn away from it real quick. And
real
you have
quick,
nothing to
and then
see.
you're up a bridge, and then
Yep.
you're merging with traffic, and then it immediately splits
Yep,
on the bridge,
bridge.
and you're like, "Oh my god, what is happening here?" It is such a quick transition.
truly is.
The nice thing about St. Louis, I will say, is there's like 5 opportunities to cross the river. So if there is bad traffic or a wreck somewhere,
Yeah,
you have lots
can
of
reroute.
alternatives.
Sure.
So that is one thing I really like about St. Louis is I've never really been in a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
There's always another good route to go around it. Kind of like Columbus. I think Columbus is the same way. Our bad traffic is so much better than most people's
Oh, it really
bad
is.
traffic. We
It
really do
truly
have
is.
a great city in several ways around.
Yep.
When traffic gets out of control. That road I was just driving in St. Louis in town, like you're on a major interstate in town in the city, and they're just turn to the right,
Yeah.
turn to the left.
Doing a Cupid shuffle.
Turn. It's just insane. It's just all over the place.
No, that's the cha-cha slide. I think that one.
It might be.
Yeah. It's amazing that you got through that. That's not what I was going to say. I just kind of lost my train of thought there. I was going to say something completely different.
Well, I did get through it quickly.
And you got through it quickly and safely, and we're so glad. I haven't gotten that truck yet. I didn't get a chance. When I got to work this morning, the keys weren't there.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I had plenty of other stuff to do. I told you that the text I sent you, I'll get them from you tonight. Since you're not coming by the yard, I'll get them from you tonight. And then so we went on about our business, and you came by and dropped them off, and there was other stuff that we were doing. So I never got back and got in that truck other than to open the door and put the keys in it for you when you did come back later on.
Yeah.
And then I never got in that truck. So I'm really excited to get in that truck and see what it looks like and check it out and take it for a spin.
It's a nice truck. And Kelly wants pictures of the inside, so we need to remember to take.
How does it look different than any of the other trucks? Why am I taking pictures of the inside of a truck? Okay. We'll do that. We'll be happy to take pictures of the truck for Kelly.
It's
tomorrow and
it's
get 'em
actually
over
a
to her.
it's a nice color scheme, and I
Okay.
really like the countertop. The countertop's really cool.
All right.
So,
I will be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Even though
you would
lodged a
be
complaint,
surprised.
I'll be happy to do
You'd be
that.
surprised too how many people, when they finally get their truck assignment, what's the inside look like? Like they're dying to know.
Melissa and I were the same way. We were dying to know.
Yeah.
And we didn't get any pictures of our truck assigned. We didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
And good thing we didn't, because the truck that we were assigned originally changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changed. Like we were you were delivering the truck to us in Medina on Sunday. We arrived in Medina Saturday afternoon-ish and got an email or a text from Eric saying, truck we assigned you has been changed. We're putting you in this truck instead.
Yeah.
Because apparently somebody detailed the wrong truck.
Probably.
Okay. And we didn't care. We were like, as long as there's a truck for us here
Yeah.
tomorrow, we're good. And we got into a truck and we're going, and it worked out just great.
Well, and that's kind of same thing you do now as well.
Oh,
is
sure.
A lot of times if we're trying to, we want to put you in this truck, and that's what we're going for. We're also looking at a second truck as a backup.
Right.
So that does happen. And the good thing about running all good equipment is if I have to pivot,
Right.
I know I'm not putting you in a bad truck.
Right. It's still a good truck.
It's still a good truck.
Still a good truck.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
It may look different inside because it's a different manufacturer,
our different color
materials,
scheme. Yeah.
but it's still a good truck.
It's one of the things I actually really like about using the bolt sleepers is their consistency is so good.
Yeah.
It's just every truck is just like the next one.
Yep.
Now that maybe a different color scheme,
still just like
but
the
it's
next
still
one.
identical.
Yeah.
Double A, who we used to use, and I really, really like Double A sleepers. Big fan of theirs. The salesperson I used to work with, he said, it was John Malone, he told me, Double A will build a great truck. Just don't ask them to build it twice. and I think that's the truth. We'd order like 6 trucks,
Yeah.
all identical, and every one of them would be just a little different. Just a little different. And you would be inside of it and you'd be like, why is that over there?
Yeah. Wasn't this over here?
It was
on this
over
one?
here. Or so I still love those guys at Double A. Their craftsmanship is unbelievable.
Truly
That's
is.
what your lodge was, right?
The Lodge was Double A. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Lodge.
Yeah. They do excellent work. I mean, they are essentially home builders who build sleepers,
Right.
and everything's completely custom on them, and they do a really great product, but they're just not set up for cookie cutter
No, they're not.
setups.
Which is it's nice that you have that customization if you're doing one truck or one-offs here and there,
Yes.
as opposed to a fleet where, you know what, I'd much rather have, in my current position, running operations, I'd much rather have cookie cutters, because I know I'm going to use the same exact outlet in each and every truck versus, oh my goodness, is this the light gray or the dark gray, or is it maybe even a ivory faceplate on this thing?
Yeah.
You know, I know exactly which ones I need, and we can keep some of that stuff in stock because we know we're going to use it.
Absolutely.
So from the fleet perspective, it's great. From the one-off custom house kind of thing, you know, where you wanted to go through and do everything on your own, then Double A was the way to go.
Yeah.
But-
And it's sad too, from my perspective, because we're really starting to get low on our Double A sleepers. The few we have
are.
left in the fleet, there's not many. They're still really nice, but there's just
Yeah.
a lot of them have become they're so good, and we talk about like one-off trucks. A lot of them have become trucks our owner operators have bought,
Right.
because they do build such a good quality product. What's the old song? Times they are changing,
Yes, they are.
and
Yes, they are.
standardization has kind of become. I don't want to sound like I'm belittling Bolt. Bolt does excellent when it comes to
we
identical.
love our Bolt
yeah,
sleepers.
absolutely,
And they take care of them for us, too. When you have to have something taken care of, they take care of them for us.
absolutely.
You know?
Bolt's customer service used to be questionable,
Okay.
but over the past several years, it's gotten so much better.
Well, that's good to know.
So much better.
That's good to know.
They are working with us now in ways they used to not.
Right.
And a lot of that too is
The number
know,
of trucks you own.
that and the people that own it now, the guy that owns it now, like when we first started buying trucks from them, he had just bought the company.
Okay.
And so there was a lot of culture things happening there and really trying to get their foot into what they're doing. And as they have matured under his leadership,
Right.
they've just gotten better. I mean, it's just no other way to put it. They've just gotten better, which I appreciate tremendously. So this truck we were that we ended up getting, I wanted to know the history of it, because if you get a 3-year-old truck with 50,000 miles, aren't you a little bit curious
Oh,
why?
yeah. Why?
What is a
Yeah.
3-year-old truck with us has at least 350,000 miles on it. Sometimes has 400,000 or 500,000 miles, depending on who was in it. But,
Right.
But 350 is pretty normal for a 3-year-old truck. 50,000 is very not normal.
Very low miles.
Very low miles. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? Now, it is built as a T-Val truck for FedEx.
Okay.
Like, it is everything about it set up exactly like that. But this truck never did go to FedEx. This company actually bought these 2 trucks and were going to run them under their own authority.
Okay.
And they had a COVID vaccine contract.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so they ran vaccine drugs for a few months, and then they lost the contract. Unfortunate,
Yeah.
but it happens.
Yeah.
Again, that's one of the benefits of working with a major carrier like FedEx
Sure.
or Panther is when that stuff happens, there's more freight.
There's more business.
But when you're on your own and you lose that business,
What else you got?
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So they parked the trucks and they were trying to find more business and finally threw in the red flag and said, all right, let's just go ahead or the white flag, and go ahead and
Walk away.
sell them, walk
Yeah.
away. That's how we ended up getting this. But, the company was based out of California, had a lot of additional operating issues because of that. And so that's kind of what led to this
I see.
situation where we were
Yeah.
able to buy these trucks. But that reminded me, I was thinking about this, of an article you actually sent me from FreightWaves, from Landline, and they were talking about the issues that have been going on in California to create a very tough business for truckers. And that combined with another article I was reading where, did you hear about this? California has said they approved a rule that is banning the sale of big rigs and buses that run on diesel in 2036. Everything
Yeah.
after that needs to be electric. So I thought about those two as I'm driving back, and I'm like, it's crazy. You just sent me this article, and we were looking at it, but we hadn't really discussed it yet. And it's like, what is happening out in California? I know you're from there, and you're not. What's the word I'm looking for here? You're not California's biggest fan. You don't hate it, but you're not their biggest fan. I actually really like California. I'm a huge fan of the state. I do love certain areas. I love the Bay Area of California. I love being out in Malibu or being down in San Diego, or even being where is it? Like up in Weed and
yeah.
by the way, that's not a joke.
It
That's
is the name
actually
of a city.
name
Yep,
of
it is.
city. Mount Shasta and
Beautiful.
Yosemite
Mhm.
is by far one of the
Gorgeous.
prettiest national
Gorgeous.
parks we have. So I do love California, but their environment for business, especially trucking, has gotten ridiculously hostile.
It has. It's all the environmental stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I love California. It's a beautiful place to be sometimes. What I don't love is the traffic and the attitudes of a lot of people. And I moved from Los Angeles to Oregon back in 2018.
Yeah.
I was tired of the rat race. Everybody had to be somewhere right now or do something right now.
Yeah.
That didn't require that, but that was the attitude of everybody. Go, 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 go. And Melissa gives me crap right now still because she says that my body, I live on island time. I'm in a hurry if something needs to be done right now.
Yeah.
If I'm strolling through a park, I'm not strolling through a park at 10 miles an hour. I'm taking my time strolling.
Yeah.
And half the time she walks on ahead of me because she likes to walk at that pace. Anyway, I still love her. I just want to put that out there in case it sounds like I hate her. But I don't want to live at that speed.
I
I
agree.
just don't want to live at that speed. So I left California and moved to Southern Oregon because I wanted something different. Going back to California when we were in the truck, I didn't dislike, I didn't hate it because we got paid to go out there, but I knew that anything we did around LA to pick up a load or get out, we had to add extra time. We had to account for that traffic. Traffic doesn't stress me. I know I have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It stresses me when I am late because I screwed up and did something wrong, woke up late or whatever, which I try not to do, but it doesn't stress me if I'm going to be late to a pickup or delivery through no fault of my own.
Yeah.
I gave myself plenty of time buffer and there's an accident.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about that.
I completely agree
Make
with
a
you.
phone call. Hey, there's an accident. They can look at it in Google Maps themselves and see the red. And
Yep.
Not my fault, right? So I don't get stressed out by that stuff. Road rage, doesn't stress me.
Yeah.
You don't like something I'm doing because I'm doing 65 or I'm doing 30 in this traffic and I'm in your way. I'm sorry, but there's nowhere for me to go. I don't get stressed over that stuff. But it's not fun to spend 4 hours of your day going 50 miles, which it can happen in California and in Los Angeles on a regular day. No accidents, just people everywhere.
Yes.
I was tired of the people. Northern California, Redding, Mount Shasta, Wairika, north of Sacramento.
Yeah.
Beautiful country. Loved
Beautiful.
it. Anywhere in between, generally speaking, I'm not a big fan. The Bay Area is nice. It's nice to go visit. I lived up there for a few years, way back in the early 2000s. Beautiful. Loved it. But again, that same rat race in Silicon Valley, small small geographical areas where they could build houses because of the mountains, lots of people, and everybody got to be somewhere right now, or I'm kind of a big deal kind of people, who took it seriously because they worked for one of the big tech firms and made $1 million on stock options. So now they're driving a fancy car and they think they're all that in a bag of biscuits.
Yeah.
So anyway, California environmental things have been going on this way for a long time. A lot of the regulations that car manufacturers build their cars to as far as environmental come from California, the California Air Resource Board. So it used to be, and it might still happen in some instances, it used to be things like cars and motorcycles. There was a 48 state car and a California car.
I remember that.
Because those cars are built with those higher, emissions qualifications. Most manufacturers now are just building one car. Yeah. It's 50 state compliant. But California drives a lot of that.
I remember growing up as a kid, I was always into cars, and I don't know if you remember, back in like 95, 96, 97, the internet was out.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't very popular, but it was out.
Yeah.
And I remember going online to like Ford and GM and all these different major companies, and you could actually go on their website, order a brochure, and they would just send you a brochure of a car to your house. Yeah. So I ordered all of them. If I was interested in your vehicle, I was ordering a brochure. Sorry, I cost those people tons of money. But I remember getting one for the Ford Ranger because Dad had a Ford Ranger, so I wanted to see what the new Ford Ranger was like, right? It's 3 years different. It's got to be much better. Same truck. Anyways, and I remember looking at the options, and in the options, A was air conditioning, and I'm like, today I'm thinking like, what car doesn't come with air conditioner? Really? But that was an option. But no, it actually had a California emissions package.
Yeah.
And it was funny too because it would take like 115 horsepower 4-cylinder, and it literally said it would knock it down to like a 96.
Yeah.
Because it would do so much to hurt to get the emissions right. Yeah, I remember seeing like you could buy every vehicle had it.
Yeah.
That little option in there. So you could be some that were California based and some that were the full country based. And I guess you're right. Like after a while, it's like the EPA is always going to eventually follow California.
Sure.
So why not just make one car? And
Well,
I'm sure with scale, they realized that's more affordable and it made more sense. But
build them all the same way. When the laws changed nationally, it's just easier. They're already there. You're good to go.
You don't have to worry about getting a car from Arizona and it not passing smog.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the article does talk about how the emissions, the clean air standards have really made it difficult. So I'm just trying to imagine that by 1930, I'm sorry, by
by 1936,
what year is it? Well, it is 1840.
Ford will make a Model T in a different color other than black.
Yeah.
As long as it's black.
Yeah. If you go through the mud, it's brown. No, by 2036, the original article said that the EPA gave California permission to implement regulations that require half of new heavy-duty vehicles to be electric by 2035. So that means half of every truck sold in 2035 must be electric.
Yeah.
However, they just passed a resolution where California wasn't happy with that. And in 2036, as long as the EPA allows it, it'll ban the sale of big rigs and buses that run on diesel by 2036.
That's crazy.
That's insanity to me.
It really is.
I mean, listen, before you all, like, I'm going to probably upset some of the people that listen. I am a big electric car and electric truck proponent.
Me too.
That environmental benefit, and look, I know We're going to talk about environmental benefit. Do you know about the mines that dig out the batteries?
Sure.
Do you know the limited resources we have on that? Do you know the grid upgrades? Do we
Right.
know all the things that have to take place?
How much coal do you burn
How
to
much-
make your electricity?
exactly.
Sure,
So
we get it.
There's all of that is in place, and all of that says environmental impact at this point is still somewhat questionable, and how much can we actually scale it? I get all that. Here's what I know. I know that every time America has had to step up to the plate and accomplish something, we've done it.
We get it done. Yeah.
Do we need to increase the grid and make it better? Yes. Will it take
Sure.
federal funding? Probably. It's the same with the railroads. The trains are derailing all over the place and causing toxic spills. BNSF and what's the big train company out of Nebraska? They're yellow. Union
CSX.
Pacific.
Oh,
Union Pacific.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money, but they don't make the kind of money that it's going to take to rebuild the
Right.
railroads. At some point, the U.S. government's going to have to kick in for some of these projects. And that same with roads. States
Sure.
and municipalities can't afford to maintain their interstate and highway infrastructure, so the federal government kicks in. That's maybe what it's going to take, but it will get done.
It will.
It will. The battery issue, I'm not convinced that lithium that we're using right now is the end all. I think that there is something else coming
Sure.
that will be better, more power in a smaller package.
Right.
People have said things like, well, don't you know electric vehicles catch on fire and that's a super high risk? Don't you know that diesel trucks also catch on fire and that's a
Yeah.
super high risk?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. There's a lot of questions that need to be solved. At this moment, if we just snapped our fingers and every vehicle in America turned to electric, we would have a problem. There's no doubt in my mind
No
about
doubt.
that. But I have faith in all the research and all the money that's being spent right now that in several years we will be ready for a large influx of electric
Sure.
vehicles. By 2036, 13 years from now, every commercial truck sold there has to be electric.
Well,
Or not? Is it say electric or non-diesel? Non-diesel.
so you have hydrogen as an option,
So you have hydrogen as an
which
option.
no one,
Yes.
I don't think anyone now is actually looking at hydrogen anymore. I thought
Correct.
there was a company that was.
No, I think
Is Thor still looking at hydrogen?
I don't know the company's names, but hydrogen. I think hydrogen has the most promise.
Okay.
But because hydrogen has zero emissions at the tailpipe, all you're
Right.
making is water.
H2O, yeah.
So hydrogen, and then you have natural gas and propane. You know, propane's been out since the 70s,
Right.
or even probably earlier than that. And then natural gas, LNG and CNG, compressed and liquid. Those are kind of going. The thing with the natural gas thing, though, is the price of the fuel has to be so high that people start buying it again.
Right.
And by that I mean the diesel has to be a certain price, and so when it's consistently over $5 a gallon across the nation, or higher, then people really start pouring money into that project. But when it's not, it's too expensive to modify the vehicles, and so they'd rather just buy diesel. So that's where the issue with that comes in, and it still produces hydrocarbons, and it
Right.
still produces. I don't know if it produces soot or not. I don't remember that, but it still puts out emissions. Hydrogen doesn't, and we can make a lot of it. And everybody, the problem with hydrogen is that Americans still have in our mind Hindenburg,
Right.
which was how long ago?
That was quite some time ago.
I
It was in the early
Jerry, you were around.
No, I wasn't.
early 20th century, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yes, hydrogen is highly volatile, but we have ways now to contain that.
Well, and when you combine volatile hydrogen with flammable paint on the surface of Zeppelin,
yes,
that could be a problem as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I agree with what you were saying that the government's going to have to step in, do something for the electric vehicle thing. I'm all for electric. Absolutely 100%.
It's electric. Bum, bum, bum.
You've also got to look at, California doing this, and you're talking about commercial vehicles and stuff. GM or Chevrolet, they've announced 2035, no more gas.
I am dying to see how that's going to work out.
I am too.
I mean,
I really am.
the thing about those big companies is they do allow for wiggle room. They can say, "Hey, we didn't make it." Government regulations usually charge on through like a steam train.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about 2007, in 2008 rather, when all those trucks started getting DPF filters, do you remember what a nightmare that was?
Yep.
I mean, a complete nightmare because the regulation was there. You meet it or go bust, and people were putting untried and untrue emission systems in these trucks, and it was a disaster. I've talked to a few people like buying RVs because like my uncle's an RV salesman. I've owned an RV since I was 21 or something, 22. Like, we're RV people.
Sure.
So I do get a lot of people asking me about RVs, and I always tell them, do not buy a 2008 to 2012.
Right.
Like, that's the worst years for those engines. The RV's fine,
Right.
but the engine's going to kill you.
With
So
those DPF
with
filters.
those DPF filters
Yeah.
and the very first SCR systems, which is the DEF,
Right.
like, they're horrible. So avoid them like the plague. And I feel the same way about commercial trucks. The good thing about commercial trucks is there's not a lot built in that area, because in 2008 we had such a huge, with the rest of the economy, such a huge decline
Right.
in the economy that there just weren't a lot of trucks built in those years.
Not a lot
But I
of
mean,
demand.
you look at it, it's a technology that was so bad that it put Caterpillar out of the truck engine manufacturing market. Caterpillar,
Yeah.
like, they used to
Yeah.
be one of the largest truck diesel manufacturers in the world. They went through like 3 years of that and said, and I think it was in 2009, they were like, yeah, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. Like, we would rather just shut a whole division down than we would keep building these engines and making millions. Like, International pretty much went bust because of it. Their MaxxForce engines were a total disaster. If it wasn't for Volkswagen Group stepping in and buying the majority of the company when they did, or half the company, they would be out of business. Like, but that's government regulation, is it
Right.
just charges on through. So this is going to be an interesting issue. My concern is, if you're in California and you run an over-the-road long-haul truck company, what are you going to do? Because a CNG, LNG, propane, hydrogen-powered, electric-powered truck, even by 2036, I don't think will be able to go coast to coast quickly.
Right.
So what are you going to do? You know, that's kind of where we've relied on diesel. Is it's readily available. We can get in and out of a truck stop fairly quick, get a whole 100, 200 gallons of diesel and roll on. And that has been what's really good. Now, electric for local, I think, is solid.
Sure.
If you are like the people that the guys that run like produce,
Right.
where they're literally bringing it from the farm to a distribution center and right back to the farm,
Right.
electric.
Yeah. No problem.
Municipalities that run dump trucks, or not dump trucks, garbage trucks,
Right.
like garbage trucks, beer trucks, Coca-Cola trucks, local city delivery vehicles. So all your FedExes, your UPS, your
Right.
post office,
Yeah.
school buses. I'm a big proponent of electric school buses, and even city buses. Like, those can all run great on electric. And by then, they'll be even better at
Even
running
better.
electric.
Yeah,
But
I
I
agree.
don't know that in 13 years we can set a grid up across the entire country allowing long-haul truck usage with a diesel-powered without a diesel-powered engine.
Could you imagine running across country and getting low on your clock and low on your battery and needing to find parking at a facility that has a charging station available to you that doesn't have a diesel truck parked in front of it?
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. It's
Very
going to be
difficult.
tough to find that parking.
I think it would be challenging, but I think it could be done, because look at Tesla.
No,
Well,
I completely
yeah.
agree.
I think Tesla's a different. He's that local model Patrick was talking about, because right now Tesla has trucks out with Frito-Lay and Pepsi, and they in their own facility. You know, they're running out and back. They're not running
Right.
long distance over
Yeah.
the road. So in their facility, they have built their own infrastructure for charging, right?
And Tesla's done that. They're building the big charging network.
The superchargers.
Yeah, the
Yes.
superchargers. I
Sure.
mean, they've already built that network out for cars.
Right.
They're doing that for the semi. The semi's got 500 miles of range, and it can recover 80% of that in a 30-minute charge.
I understand that, but my joke, but most partly serious, was being able to find that available parking spot
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you need to.
So what I think about is, do you remember? There's still some places out there, but there's not nearly what there used to be. Do you remember there used to be places at truck stops you would park and you would put the little vent thing on
Oh,
your
yeah.
window, and you
Yes.
would
Yeah.
pipe in air conditioner, and they'd have electricity, they'd have cable television.
Yep, idle air.
Idle air, yeah. They're almost nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
But even when they were kind of a pain. So, yes, I think something like that could exist across the nation for electric. Do I think in 13 years we can equip thousands of spots, thousands upon thousands of spots. Do I think that Pilot Flying J loves TA Petro, Sat Brothers, all the mom and pops across the nation, that they can install that infrastructure in 13 years, that the grid can handle all of that quickly, so that this is a sustainable model that if you're a trucking company based out of California, you can still run long haul over the road strictly with an electric truck.
So
I just don't see that as a possibility.
as a trucking company in California, I have a couple of options. One, move my business outside of California,
Which a lot are doing by the groves they're leaving.
The other is not officially move my business out of California, but those trucks that I'm buying outside of California that aren't electric or are zero emissions, that are diesel still, keep them out of California. As a California business, there's nothing to stop businesses that run diesel trucks after 2035 from running into California for business.
Correct.
Right now. We know California probably has that in the works. But
which they've done. They came back out and said in 2012 you had to have at least a DPF to go in the country or in the state.
In the state, yeah.
And then by 2019, you had to have an SCR system.
Right.
So they have done that before, and they will do that again.
They will do that again. But it's California. You know, you look at it from the perspective of the environment and protecting the environment, or being anti-business. Do those two go hand in hand? Or are we looking at environmental concerns as a much greater factor than losing the business in California? And then you have people that say you get all your stuff on the back of a truck, but you're being anti-truck. And this is not the first time. We haven't talked about AB5 in a while, but there's a couple of different things here, and my brain's not working, so I don't know if I made clear sense of those points or not.
No, I think you did.
I think you just said no, you didn't.
I followed you, so maybe I'm a little...
No, I was
followed you
making
as well.
a joke that wasn't funny, as usual.
I followed you as well, and I think you're right. There's both sides of that coin. I agree with you. I think there's going to be challenges and there's going to be issues, but at some point, somebody has to start somewhere. Somebody has to do something.
Yeah.
It's just like Apple. Hello, they came out with the iPhone and it revolutionized and changed everything. Okay? Look at the way phones are today.
But the question is that for the better?
Absolutely. There's no way in the world I could even think about 2023 without an iPhone in my pocket, without having a full-fledged computer. Not a flip phone with little buttons.
But I do think that's because we have it. If we didn't have it, if the BlackBerry being able to check our
you
email,
you have to also. I'm a big lover of Apple. We all know that at this table.
Yes.
And Steve Jobs, he was very good at telling people what they needed before they realized they need it, and then they realized, oh my God, how did I ever live without this? This is the same thing. California has always done this. California has always put regulation first before other states. I think, and states and EPA and everybody else always follow suits because it always turns out to be, I'm not saying the right decision every time, but it usually is a good thing.
I think my concern is not that this isn't a good thing for them to do. At some point, I think you're right. At some point, we are going to have to totally reevaluate our fossil fuel situation, and we're going to have to reevaluate how we get our fuel. I mean, we are indebted to the Middle East. We're indebted to countries in South America. We've already seen when we cut off Russian oil what that did to the price of fuel. Like, there's definitely things, and strictly just drilling in America and depleting our resources isn't really the answer either. I mean, it's part of the answer, but it's not the answer. It's a stopgap.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, we do have to figure this out, and we have companies figuring it out. In 13 years, I don't know that we'll be there.
Well, I think what you're using that 13-year number. I think the issue here is we're not talking about all the trucks across all of America have to be electric in 13 years. We're talking about trucks being sold in California
Correct.
being, like I said, electric, but being zero emission.
Yes.
So there still leaves us 47 lower states that will still be able to purchase and sell diesel, or let's call it diesel for the trucks that actually do emit emissions, right? So we don't have to have a full network built out across the country to handle all these millions of Class 8 trucks that are on the road today. We have to have it built out enough to handle the Class 8 trucks or the other class of trucks that California is regulating as well in that 13-year period. So in 13 years, all the trucks in California aren't going to instantly switch to zero emission where they need that infrastructure. So yes, we can start now building it out. Start in California. California, if you're making this rule, start building that network out so at least the trucks that run in your state that are zero emissions can fuel somewhere, whether it's electric or natural gas or propane. Start building it out in California and lead by example of what that looks like, and that can slowly be moved outside. Not saying that we wait 13 years before we start building that out elsewhere as well, but we don't have to have that entire infrastructure in place right now.
I agree. And it leads me kind of to the original idea of this, which was, part of the reason why we got those trucks was because of how unhospitable California is being for the trucking and industry. And so that kind of talks back to this of like, if I run a over-the-road long-haul trucking company and I'm based out of California, by 2036, my options really are going to be start a satellite company in another state that can buy diesel,
right, or
completely transition out of the state. Now, the cool thing is, I do think what we have is a situation where there's a, because I'm a capitalist, I look at this and go, how can you make money off it? And we're kind of seeing now, due to the AB5 situation, it's starting to happen where companies are actually building cross docks in Arizona and in Nevada and probably soon in Oregon if they're not already doing it, where you can actually go drive your, like if you pick up oranges out of Miami,
right,
you can drive them all the way to Arizona, drop them off, and they'll load them onto a California truck. That California truck will then go into California and make the delivery, and they don't have to worry about AB5. They don't have to worry about the emission stuff. They can just kind of write all of that out. And these businesses are building cross docks. They're building California-based companies that can take on electric trucks because they are just going from Arizona to LA.
Right.
You could do that with a Tesla, no problem. Sure. So that's the fun thing. The thing I like about capitalism is when there's a problem, there's an opportunity to make money and to open a business. And so you do see that starting to happen even now. So by 2036, I think you'll see more of that. The crazy thing about it, though, is at that point, you have to ask yourself, are we treating California as a state or a country? Because that's what we do in Mexico and Canada. We have cross docks for people to go into those countries. We don't have cross docks for people to go into a state. And so it's just weird. It's just an extra layer of, it's an extra layer of stuff, an extra layer of work that is interesting. And if you think about it, what California is doing now with AB5, which is, if you don't know what AB5 is, that is California basically said as an independent contractor, driver of a truck, leasing operator of a truck, owner operator, you can't be that anymore. If you drive a truck, you have to be employed by a company, which is insane. It's completely killing the owner operator market. It's completely killing the lease operator market. It is not a good way to do business. But they have that's what they've said. That's what they made law. It's being challenged by a lot of people right now. So we'll see what really ends up happening over the next couple of years. But and we'll talk more about AB5 later. But between that and between everything they're doing with emissions, they've reached a point where they haven't. I don't know if they've overstepped yet, but they're getting real close to overstepping and becoming their own country. And it's interesting. Of like, hey, what's going to happen over the next few years?
I think what you described, though, as becoming their own country is kind of akin to a distribution center, right? Where if you call them distribution centers versus cross docks, they're a different animal. All the major players use distribution centers. Walmart's, Target's, Costco's, all your major corporations are using distribution centers where, for those of you that aren't familiar with that model, when you see a Walmart truck out there, it's usually going from a Walmart distribution center to a Walmart store, and it's loaded with a variety of merchandise. So if I'm selling widget A, I don't ship them to all the individual Walmart stores.
Correct.
I ship a trailer full to a Walmart distribution center, and then Walmart takes that trailer, breaks it down, and they create a consist that goes onto a Walmart truck to go to the store.
Yeah.
So it might be the same kind of thing where I can take a 53-foot trailer full of oranges into this Arizona distribution center. I'm using air quotes here, where then that is broken down into consists that may not go all to one place in California. That may go somewhere else. And I mean, all I'm doing is using semantics and splitting hairs and trying to figure out a different way of doing it. I don't know if we're making California its own country or we're just playing by California's rules. If California wants to set these guidelines, well, like you said, the capitalists find ways around it. I don't know that we're not having to. Produce is probably a bad example because that truck leaves Arizona, goes into California, and they get flagged for, you got produce, we got to inspect your produce, right? But so let's use something that's a dry good that doesn't get inspected that way,
Toilet
right?
paper.
Toilet paper. So we're not having to stop at the border and go through customs and all that stuff. You load up toilet paper in Arizona and you run into California, and Bob's your uncle. So I don't see a problem with that model if that's the way it has to go to make this work in California. I think ultimately that'll start to break down once the infrastructure is there, so these California electric trucks can pick up a load of cargo from the airport or from a port or from a manufacturer and take it across country, or produce.
Yeah.
Pick up a load of produce in Salinas and haul it down to Georgia.
Well, and I think for that to happen, though, I think that the time, I think we're looking at 2050 before we have a nationwide.
Sure.
I think that's a more realistic goal.
I think so too.
And again, that is 27 years from now. So you maybe even could say, 20 years from now.
Right,
I think I think we'll have a good nationwide grid.
I think Jerry made the point a few minutes ago. You got to start somewhere.
You do.
With Steve Jobs and Apple, the example he used, he's given us stuff that we don't know that we need, and California's been doing the same thing with emissions. I grew up in L.A. before smog checks were a thing, and if you're in L.A.'s a kind of a half bowl where the ocean is the broken off part of the bowl, and you have mountains that surround the outside of it, where I could stand in my front yard and look towards the mountains and see nothing but gray smog. You couldn't see the mountains.
Yeah.
And as smog checks came through and grew and air quality standards were set higher, you can now see the mountains a lot more than you used to be able to because they have cleaned up that air.
Absolutely.
So, to Jerry's point, we got to start somewhere. I think we start somewhere, and if that distribution center model or cross-dock model is what happens for the time being, well, make hay while the sun shines. Let's buy some property in Arizona and Nevada and see if we can't make some money off it.
Absolutely. When you look at it, and they are calling it cross docks, so that's not.
That's fine.
Yeah, that is
that's
what
fine.
they're calling it.
Yeah.
But it is. I mean, a lot of stuff's metal buildings that is on a 20-year amortization,
Sure.
and if they think like I do that, hey, we got 20 years, we can build this thing, get our money out of it, and then dump it. In 50 years, you may go to Arizona and find a bunch of vacant cross docks.
Cross docks, sure. Sure.
That wouldn't be the only thing that's vacant in those areas.
No, it
I
wouldn't.
mean, you drive from Vegas to L.A. and you find all kinds of abandoned structures along that route. So I don't know. It is a very interesting situation. It still has to be approved by the EPA. So if the federal government lets California get away with so much, I don't see why it won't be. It won't get approved. But we'll keep our eyes on that, and then we'll come back and talk about it later once we find that out.
Certainly.
So, but yeah, it is interesting. Again, I just got a truck out of a situation that reminded me of all this, and I thought would be fun to talk about.
Excuse me.
I really look forward to seeing what California has in store for us and what's going to be happening over the next few years. But, you speak of emissions, and it brings me to the airplane of the week.
I'm going to guess here at what airplane you have here today, just based on the looks of it, because I don't know my airplanes. This looks like a run-of-the-mill airplane. It's got 2 engines, 2 wings, a tail, a fuselage. It's an airplane to me, right?
Yes.
But I'm going to go on a limb here. It's in the Virgin Atlantic livery. I can see that with my own 2 eyes. I'm going to guess it's an Airbus.
Yes.
Okay. I got that part right.
Okay.
So the Airbuses usually have the A and then a number.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if they have any
do.
like B or C. I think it's just always an A.
Yeah, I think so.
I know there's Airbus A300 series and A200 series.
Yes.
The 200s are smaller than
Very
the 300s,
small.
though.
You just flew in a 200.
I did just fly in a 200. It's a smaller plane. Yeah.
And this looks much larger.
Much larger.
Much,
it's a lot
much
longer.
larger.
Yeah, a lot longer. I mean, the one I was in had like 30 rows, I think. This has a lot more windows than that.
Yes.
I'm going to say it's a 300 series. A350. A350
Dash.
dash. That's a long cycle. Usually the longer they are, the bigger that dash.
That's right.
I'm used to I've heard like 747 300s and 400s. This looks like a lot longer than that.
You know what's funny on the 747 while you're thinking about that? The 747-400, and then they go to the 747-8.
Right. Just
8. Just 8.
That's all you need is 8.
Like you think 747-800. No,
just 8.
the 8.
I'm going to go on a limb and say this is just like a A350. No? 7. No. A350. They make them like in thousands and that kind of thing. Maybe it's an A350 1000.
That sounds like a winner.
Wow.
I was thinking
That was a long way around to get there, but
I was thinking A350 500.
No. They only make this in 2 variants, a 900 and a 1000.
Wow.
Actually, technically 3. They technically make it in 3 variants: A350 900 and A350 900 XL ULR. That's ultra long range. And then an A350 1000. This is the A350 1000. It is in the Virgin Atlantic livery. I have flown on this. We flew on this from JFK to London Heathrow. It is a awesome plane. This is their state-of-the-art newest plane. Do you know the big Airbus A380, the double-decker?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
very
Everybody
famous.
knows that one. Yeah.
This is actually a newer airplane. It has newer engines, only 2 engines instead of 4. The wings, look at that wingtip. You can kind of tell from here it's just curved.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's bolted on. It looks like it's formed into the wing. And it is a remarkable airplane. I'm going to turn this around real quick. Look at the eye on it. Or the eyes, that's funny. The cockpit windshield, it's curved. It looks like, a lot of people say it looks like a raccoon eyes almost, the way it is.
Yeah.
And it is an awesome airplane. The engines are a geared turbofan. They're extremely efficient. This thing just sips gas as it flies over the Atlantic Ocean.
Funny thing is, I didn't notice it says right here on the front. Airbus
I thought you did see that.
A350 1000.
This airplane, so we flew it across to Heathrow, like I said, and it's a great experience. So the geared turbofan engines, again, they're super efficient. The best thing about them, though, that I think is great, is that they're super quiet.
Oh, nice.
Because there's nothing like flying an airplane and you got to have earplugs in or whatever. This thing is extremely quiet. It's carbon fiber built, which is why it has those really cool winglets.
Molded in.
So when I say winglets, if you look at the picture online that I'm going to post, or Jerry's going to post, look at the way the wings kind of curve up towards the end. It is there's like no other plane like it. It just has these beautifully crafted 4-dimension winglets on it. It's really, really well designed. It's a small touch. Most people aren't going to notice it. When I point it out, people are like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Because normally they're just like up and down. But these are actually really nicely molded in the wings. And super efficient, extremely quiet. The cool thing about it is they don't take... The way the air conditioner system works is different than a traditional jet. And so combined with the new air conditioning system and the fact that it's all carbon fiber and not aluminum, they're able to pressurize the airplane more, meaning that it feels like you're lower to the ground, and they can incorporate little things like humidity into it. So when you're flying an airplane, you get all dried out and you
Yeah.
feel like crap after when you land,
Right.
especially in a long haul flight. They're actually putting humidity back into the air. They're keeping you at like 6,000 feet above the ground as
Okay.
opposed to normal airplanes like
Wow.
8 or 9,000 feet above the ground is what it feels like inside the cab. It's a little cooler in the inside of the cab, not as hot, and it just makes you way more comfortable, way more relaxed. People are able to sleep better on these airplanes. People are able to land and feel better, and it's a great airplane. It's one of my favorites. It's not my favorite, but it is one of my favorites. And so the reason I brought this up is, as you know, Eric and I just got just went on vacation, and we actually flew Delta Airlines version of this.
Oh, wow.
And that was really cool because as much as I love this plane, Delta flies a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I can never find an itinerary that puts me on one.
Now you've got one.
And so now I finally got
Cool.
one, and I'm waiting on the model to come in of it. Just a really cool
That's cool.
airplane.
I have a concern.
What's your concern?
As big as this plane is,
Yes.
I'm concerned that one single rooftop air conditioning unit back there isn't going to cut it. I mean, is it because they can pressurize it more that one rooftop air conditioner handles all of that?
So
Is that how that works?
That's not the rooftop air conditioner. That's actually the
swamp cooler?
in-motion satellite for the Wi-Fi.
So where's the rooftop air?
It doesn't have a rooftop air.
What you just mentioned, it has air conditioning.
Basement air.
Basement air.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. Well, that's a new one on me.
It's a great airplane. We enjoyed spending time on it. This is my second A350 I've flown on. Every time I fly one, they're great.
Both times. Yeah.
Yeah. Both. Yeah. So, anyways, that is the airplane of the week. So things coming up. It does look like we have a couple things on the agenda in July. Specifically the 21st to the 22nd. We will be at the
Allen County War Memorial Coliseum
in beautiful
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
That's right. And we're there for the
Expedite Expo and Crossroads of America Truck Show.
That's right. We're going to be there in booth 413, 413, hanging out. We have, I actually just got off a conference call today with a bunch of the staff. We're talking about things that we're going to do there. We're talking about the booth. We're talking about after party. We're talking about parking lot party. We're talking
Awesome.
about setting up and how we're going to plan everything out and everything. It just got me excited. I don't know.
Cool.
Jerry, you were on that call. What'd you think?
I agree. Very exciting.
Isn't it? So you weren't part of this last year. Last year you were just an attendee. This year you're part of the grind and the grit. With everything we talked about, does it seem like a bigger to do than you thought it was, or about what you thought it was?
I knew there was a lot that went in it behind the scenes that I wasn't part of last year. But yeah, just listening to the phone call today, there's a lot. There is a lot that Hyfield does to get ready for this.
It is funny. I remember last year we did it. It was like, all right, we'll just do this. It'll be fun. And then you get into it and you're like, oh my gosh, we got all this extra stuff we
Yeah,
got to take
a lot
care of.
going
And
on.
we got to take care of this, got to take care of that.
Right.
So it all builds. This year we just had our first phone call about it with the staff, and it was an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And basically at the end of the phone call, we have nothing planned, but everybody now has an assignment to go figure out for the next phone call.
Nice.
And
Nice.
it's a lot. Now, cool things coming out of it is our studio that you're seeing us in now, or if you're listening to us, you could see us in.
Or you're hearing us from.
Or you're hearing us from.
Yeah.
We're getting new lighting in here. So we're going to take all the lighting you've actually been appreciating that we have is not actually our permanent lighting.
Right.
This is our temporary lighting that we use at the expos or our other events we do around the world or country. And so we're going to be able to put these back in our mobile studio fleet and get normal, actually fixed, good high-end lighting. Hopefully it'll make us look a little better on camera. We'll see. Jerry swears it will. I don't know. He just likes spending money. But anyways, it
Both is true.
he's like, does Apple make a light? Anyways, so hey Siri, 1000K darker. All right. Anyways, so yeah, that's going to be coming up for our studio, which is exciting. And just diving into the planning stage. I've been into our storage where we keep all the expo stuff a couple times recently, making inventory, and I keep getting like a random like text message. Hey, next time you're over there, can you please check and see if they have X, Y, or Z? I have one thing I can't find it all that I'm kind of worried about, but yeah, we'll figure it out. But it's Yeah, it's exciting. I say all that to say, come hang out with us. It's always a fun time. It's a very educational time.
Yes, it is.
They have breakout sessions on both Friday morning and Saturday morning where they do all kinds of topics. They do the main truck floor is open for about 4 hours a day. And you can crawl into a bunch of trucks, talk to different vendors, talk to different carriers. It's a good time. We always sponsor casino night.
Casino night.
And the after party. Yep. Which is, we're going to do this again because which is
a great time.
A great time. And it'll be a cash bar there at the casino night after party. And we bring out all the poker tables, the pool tables, blackjack, all that. Not pool tables.
No pool tables.
That would be nice, though.
That would be. Shoot some billiards, yeah.
But no, it's they have roulette, blackjack, poker, craps, probably some other games that I'm not as familiar with, and all the dealers and everything. It's a lot of fun. There's door prizes given out all night long. We have some music in the background. If you don't want to play casino and you're like, that doesn't really sound fun to me, you don't have to. There's a whole section of people that just hang out and talk and hang out together and just socialize, and it ends up becoming a really, really nice night. And if you are thinking like, oh, I'd like to play, there's no real money exchange.
None.
When you get there,
Zero.
they give you $1,000 of Monopoly money, and that's what you play with all night. So if you're not a gambler because you don't want to spend the money, it's a great time to go and play and have fun without having to worry about the mortgage payment.
Nope. No mortgage payments involved.
No. So it's I like it. I think it's a lot of fun. I think people get a chance to socialize. They get a chance to know each other when you're hanging around a table.
In a different way, too.
In a different way, yes.
Let your hair down.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is, it's not just attendees. There's a lot of vendors there playing games and stuff, too. So, you get up next to one of the carriers, someone, or you get next to one of the truck vendors, and you're like, hey, we're having fun playing cards.
Yeah.
How do you feel about a little discount on that Freightliner?
Exactly.
I mean, like, listen, truck shows are great, but the deals are made at the special events. They're not made on the floor. So,
I mean, what's the worst they can do? Say no?
Yes, that's literally
worst.
That's it. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. I like those times for hanging out and chatting. I actually I can't even talk about it, but I'd love to. But I had one of our Expedite Expos we went to. I was playing craps table with some very influential people, and it impacted our business quite a bit.
Wow.
So I do encourage people, go hang out, talk to people, enjoy yourself, make good use of the time. The parking is $16 a day, but they're only collecting it once, which means, if I'm reading it correctly, that you pay $16 on Friday to get in. They don't come around on Saturday and ask you, and they let you stay overnight there. Yeah. So you can sleep in the parking lot in your truck.
Right.
If you're in a car and you come up, there's a couple hotels around there. It is $8 a day to get in and out, so you still end up paying $16. But
sure. But if you come in your truck and you don't leave until you're ready to leave for the weekend,
yes,
you pay the $16 once and that's it.
Absolutely. And on Saturday, weather permitting, we're going to throw the parking lot party like we always do.
Are we having the Squircle?
We're having the Squircle.
Nice.
Yes.
Look forward to it.
We're even kicking that up a couple notches.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was excited.
Yes, sir.
In operations, I don't hear about the planning of Expo, which I'm thankful for because I got enough stuff going on my own.
So you'll show up.
I'm looking forward to it.
You'll be there the week before being like, now what are we doing?
Yeah,
you'd be
exactly.
Like, what? Huh?
Yep.
Did you think this all the way through? Because that's the fun thing is, we don't think everything through.
No.
Sometimes we do stuff, and in hindsight, we're like, oh, that wasn't a good idea. All right, anyways.
We figure it out, and we learn for next year.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes we have a blast.
Yeah. Sometimes we have a blast doing it.
And we're like,
worked out just great.
Yeah, it worked out great.
When I used to do trade shows for Apple, and one thing my manager told me was we never let them see our panties.
Yes.
So, we put on the show, and we showed them what we wanted them to see.
Yeah.
And if what we wanted them to see wasn't what we thought we wanted them to see, it's okay. They didn't know any better.
Absolutely.
Yep. So.
Yep. It's funny. Last year, our booth design went through like 2 or 3 iterations, and the first one was so optimistic. I look back on it now and I'm like, oh, that's hysterical. We thought we could do that with that space.
That was so cute.
This year we have a bigger space. We'll be able to do a little bit more. We got some really exciting things that we'll be announcing later on as we firm those up as well. So put it on your calendar. Go to expediteexpo.com, expediteexpo.com, and register. It's free to register. So if you think you're going to make it, go ahead and jump on there, register.
Sure.
When you get there, you get your badge and everything. Yep. We would love to see you, love to hang out with you. If you're thinking about joining, Hyfield and driving a truck for Panther or FedEx, and you're just not sure, come out and hang out with us.
Yeah,
Come see us.
come see us.
Again, get a chance to climb in a truck, see what we're all about. Fill us out. Maybe you don't like us. I don't know why you wouldn't, but maybe you don't, or maybe you do. It would be a great opportunity to experience with a very low risk factor. And we always enjoy the show. We always enjoy hanging out with people. Yep. We're going to be there as the Outer Belt. We're going to do a podcast from there. I know Expedite Chicks, Lookshire, Expediting Adventures are planning on doing some recording from there as well. And I think we have, I don't know if Boogie or not is going to do a podcast or not a YouTube video from there. We'll have to get with them and find out. And then we've got a few special guests, I think, that are also going to join us. So I'm looking forward to it. And I hope everyone can come. I mean, like, it costs us a lot of money if all of our trucks show up. Yeah. But dang it, let's do it.
Let's do it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
let's do it. It's Hyfield Family for a reason.
Yep.
The money comes second to the family. Anything else we're missing? Jerry, what are we forgetting?
Make sure you hit that like button, share this video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Click that bell so you get notified whenever new videos are uploaded. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Outer Belt Podcast. If you need to get in touch with us, you can leave a comment down below or send an email over to us at theouterbeltpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website at hyfieldtrucking.com. You can also check out our live chat feature that we have on there. We are on there Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can chat with one of our lovely representatives if you're interested in joining the Hyfield family.
Absolutely. We appreciate everything that y'all have done to support us. We try to bring you great shows, great content. I personally feel like we're getting more comfortable, and I know I'm getting more comfortable with this, and certainly hope that I'm providing a better level of entertainment than what maybe the first couple episodes did. And, this is this episode 16? 15, 16?
I lost count.
I'm
sorry.
Too. It's all
okay,
right.
well...
do we number them on YouTube?
I number them by the airplanes. If you give me 1 second.
Okay.
We are on this is episode 16, 16.
Nice.
So, thank you for hanging out with us. I can't wait till this is episode 100. I mean, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
It's been a lot of fun. If you see something you want us to talk about, if you see news articles, shoot it over to us. If you just have questions, so like Jerry said, reach out to us. It's your show. It's your time. It's our time to express with y'all what we're seeing in the world, and we just want to use this as a tool to make your business better, to answer questions for you, and also to hopefully provide a couple hours of entertainment while you're driving down the road.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for what you've done.
I was going to say,
Yes?
we're talking about watching this on YouTube and and subscribing on YouTube. We do release this as a podcast as well.
We do.
On all your favorite podcasting apps. So if you want to listen as you ride down the road, you can certainly subscribe to our podcast on any of your favorite podcasting apps. If you do that, do us a favor and leave us a review there. So we in our comments as well, so people can find us easier. It's easier for them to find when there are reviews. And at least a rating on the podcast. So,
absolutely, and I sent this out in email a couple weeks ago or so. If you like what you're hearing, I know Jerry said like and subscribe and share, and a lot of people say that. We believe that our industry is great. The big comfortable sleepers, the ease of the loads, the ease of driving. And there's a lot of people that don't know anything about this industry. So if you could share this with your friends and family or on your social media platforms, it's not just about building up our brand. It's about letting people know there's an alternative to the situation they may be in. And so I really do believe we bring something to the table that a lot of people could take advantage of.
Sure.
So please share that with people you think could use it, or just openly in the public. I think it could do some really great power. Until next week, drive safe, everybody, and make good decisions.
Don't leave money on the table.
And keep those wheels a turning.
Good night.